theory to learning theory to teaching methods and to testing. Here we have 4 approaches: the essay translation approach, the structured approach, the integrative approach, and the communicative approach. The first one, which is the essay translation approach, who can read it?
Yes, may I?
Yes,
Just please, just raise your hand. Yes, Asma, I'll read it. The rest of you, please be with us step by step to delete or add some information. Okay? Yes, Asma, I'll read it. The first one.
The essay translation approach. This approach is referred to as the pre-scientific stage of language testing. No special skill in testing is required. There is a lack of concern for objects. The tests are mainly written exercise, translation, composition, and grammatical analysis, and sometimes an الكلمة ستها ممسوحة عندي بالكتاب.
What is it?
Like a grammatical analysis and sometimes an, I don't know what this word.
Sometimes. Yes.
An.
Yes, and sometimes. We have 2 stages. We have pre-scientific stage and we have scientific stage of language testing. Okay. Yes. The first approach, which is the essay translation approach, is before or pre-scientific stage, while the others like structures, integrative, communicative, in scientific stage. So here we have characteristics of weak and strong points. Okay. يعني نزلت لكم الباوربوينت صحيح؟ لأنه بقية المجاميع خلصت شرح. طلعتوا على الباوربوينت قريتوا لو؟
Yes.
Yes, miss.
بالمناسبة طلعوا امتحانكم الشابتر الأول والثاني، بس خلي أعرض لكم الباوربوينت. الشهر الأول حيكون الشابتر الأول والثاني، تقرؤون الكتاب، تقرؤون الباوربوينت، وتبقى الأسئلة الاستنتاجية هذه من خلال فهمكم للمادة. يعني الأسئلة النصا تكون من الباوربوينت أو من الكتاب، والأسئلة الاستنتاجية أكيد هاي ما تكون يعني استنتاجية، تعتمد على فهم الطالب.
Okay, miss.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so translation. Scientific stage of language testing. No special skill expertise in testing is required. Lack of concern for objectivity and for test reliability means no objectivity, no reliability. And this test is just a subjective test. Written exercises also like translation, composition, grammatical analysis, and also we have oral or oral component. Here, what is the difference between oral and oral with AU and OR? What is the difference?
May I?
Yes.
Yes. The
يعني
word oral
طلاب إنه من أسأل السؤال يعني بس ترفعون إيديكم بليز يعني حتى speaking. Thank you. So oral with AU means listening or hearing, while the second one oral speaking. Okay, so when I say, for example, I will explain this lecture orally, means that we have two sides. Okay, or when I say, for example, I will quiz you orally, means that we have two means yes. The strong point of this test or that's why we say that this approach, it is lack of concern for objectivity and reliability. Okay, because it is subjective test. The second one, or strong point, I mean, the essay translation approach may be used for testing any level of examinees. Okay, for example, I have just one group. In this group, I have, or we have pre-intermediate, intermediate, and upper intermediate. Okay, I can, by using this test or this type of test, which is essay translation, but I can test all these levels. Okay, so the second one, I mean the second strong point, we can use this test to testing any level of examinees. Okay. The second one up to here, do you have any question? Question? Okay. Good. The next one, which is the structured approach. بقية الطلاب رجاء تابعوا ويانا حتى إذا عندكم معلومات زايدة تحذفوها، إذا عندكم معلومات ناقصة تضيفوها، لأنه الطلاب الشرح اللي أو القراءة اللي دا يقروها هذه النسخة اللي عندي اللي هي معتمدة. أوكي، حتى بالامتحان ما يكون عندكم إشكال. وأرجع وأكد عليكم الامتحان الشابتر الأول والشابتر الثاني. الأسئلة نصاً، يعني أكو الأسئلة تنقسم قسمين، نصاً واستنتاجية. الأسئلة النصاً تكون من الكتاب من الباوربوينت، الأسئلة الاستنتاجية تعتمد على فهمكم. وما أسمح لأي طالب يوم الامتحان أو بعد الامتحان ست جبتي لنا أسئلة ما مرة علينا كذا نهائياً. إشكال سؤال استنتاجي ذولا يعتمدون على فهمك. أنت طالب مرحلة ثانية لازم نختبر فهمك، ما اختبر حفظك. أوكي تمام؟
عفوا من التعليمات بالقسم بأنه الأسئلة تكون اختيارات، ويعني لأن الوقت قصير.
أي ماكو
يعني حتى الاستنتاجية ما تلحق تفكر لها، يعني أدوب تختار الجزء.
طلاب ما قلت شرح، أنا جبت طار شرح.
عارف ست، بس الأسئلة الاستنتاجية يعني تريد تفكير بموضوع، مثلا مو مثل ما احنا قارين نصا وتجينا نختار قبل.
فكر لا عندك هي كلها أعتقد 20 أو 25 نقطة.
وكيف نوقف النت.
Yes. Firdaus Haider.
Yes.
Yes, Firdaus, read the second one, the structured approach.
Okay. The structured approach. This approach is mainly characterized by the view that testing can be objective, precise, reliable, and scientific. Spokesly, 1975. Objective tests have been developed, the most widely used being the multiple choice items. Task typical methods have been improved to measure the reliability and validity
Yes.
of tests. Complete?
Contrastive analysis. Yes.
Yes, the contrastive analysis is also used to identify problems faced by second or foreign language. The test measures the learner's mastery of the separate elements of the language, phonology, vocabulary, and grammar. The skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing are also testing separately. The best example of this test according to the foreign view, the analytical assessment or discrete point approach is following. Analytical assessment seeks to measure the knowledge of student on individual, especially grammar, feature, and vocabulary. Were incomplete or that contain error in grammar or usage. Students have to complete or correct.
Thank you. Up to here. Yes. Thank you. Up to here. Up to test or this test often use long list of unrelated sentences. Up to here. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Here also. Here also we have characteristics of this approach, which is the structuralist approach. This approach in scientific stage, the characteristics of this approach involves structural linguistics measure the learner's mastery of the several elements. Phonology, vocabulary, grammar, and also the four skills: speaking, reading, and listening, writing, and so on. And we have contrastive analysis. The most important point of this contrastive analysis is used to identify problems faced by second or foreign learners, okay, like you. And I said, when I say characteristics means strengths and weaknesses. Strengths points or strengths of structuralist approach or strong point. The first one, this test objective, precise, reliable, and scientific one, while the first one, which is the essay translation approach, was lack of objectivity and reliability. The second point, many forms of test can be covered in the test in a short time. Okay, what do we mean by many forms of test can be covered in the test in a short time? What do we mean by this one?
Please, can you repeat the question?
The second point here, many forms of test can be covered in the test in a short time. What do we mean by this?
Maybe it means the examination it can do and a little short time.
Okay, good. What do you mean by many forms can be covered? What do you mean by this?
Means
Yes.
many shapes of the examination, for example, vocabulary, grammar, can do it in the short time.
Yes, miss.
محمد بس اللي انت ما الطلاب بدها تشوفوني دا اسولف ويا الطالب صدق كذب. Yes, محمد.
Yes, it means many forms of tests means oral. It means oral test and listening, writing. All of them they can do it in the short time.
Yes. Many forms of tests can be covered in the test. Many forms of tests can be covered in the test. Um, yes, for those.
Yes, like the items of the test, like when you use multiple choice or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yes, let's talk back.
Can you explain it more?
The type of the questions, multiple choice, true, false, or something like that.
Yes, okay, good. Here we say that we can use many forms, like for example, the first question, multiple choice, the second one, supplying a question, the third one, full gaps, the fourth one, true, false, and so on, okay, in one test at the same time. Okay, here we have this point, that's the meaning of this point, yes. The third one, using this approach in testing will help students find their strengths and weaknesses in every skill. For example, we say that with aptitude test, we predict weak and strong points, but with
Particles and the components like phonology, grammar,
هو صحيح لا بعد كلمة
and it deals with the whole levels,
because
the
it
whole
measures
levels of the student.
اي شنو because it measures the four skills شنو كلمة واحدة
Okay.
يعني تقدر تقولي مثلا بالامتحان because it measures the four skills وتسكتين خطأ ما أقدر أرجع عليه لأن هي بقت كلمة هي اللي تفصل. Yes, Betuli.
Four skills separately.
Yes, that's it. Very good. Okay, because it measure the four skills separately. Yes. On measuring the linguistic components and the four skills separately, the three components, phonology, grammar, and vocabulary. These tests use long lists of unrelated sentences. Okay, long tests of unrelated sentences. These sentences are incompleted sentences, contained errors. Again, and the instructor or the teacher asks the students to complete or to correct these sentences. Okay. Yes. Do you have any question? The structures approach, no question. Okay. The third one, which is the integrative approach. The integrative approach. Yes, Ayat Mahdi. Ayat Mahdi, do you hear me? حوراء نوري.
Yes, Miss.
Yes حاول.
Sorry, miss.
اوكي.
Read.
خليها بعدين، خلي ورا حوراء. يس حوراء.
Read the interrogative approach.
Yes, the integrative approach.
Yes, this approach involves the testing of language in context and is concerned with the meaning and the total communicative effect of discourse. It is the exact reverse of analytical assessments, since I think it's not clear, is attempts to assess several elements and perhaps skills at the same time. Interrogative tests are best characterized by the use of closed testing, which reflects the best features of the two approaches. Analytical and interrogative forms a text, words are removed at regular intervals. The examiner has to fill in the missing words. The task is holistic. Grammar and the vocabulary, for example, grammar and vocabulary and overall meaning are tested simultaneously.
Yes.
But the scoring is objective. Other types of interrogative tests are dictation, oral interviews, and composition writing, which will be dealt with later in this book.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Hawa. Good. This approach, which is integrative approach, the testing of language in context, okay, and is thus concerned primarily with meaning and the total communicative effect. The integrative tests are concerned with a global view of proficiency. Why? Because it measures the 4 skills and the 3 components together. Okay, so we can get a global a view of proficiency. Okay, types of tests that we use in this approach: closed test, dictation, oral interviews, and composition writing. But the most important one, closed test. Is the closed test. Closed test, I explained it. And as I said, also we have strong and weak points, or strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, the first one, the meaning and the total communicative effect of discourse will be very useful for students in testing. That's why we, as I said, we measure the 4 skills together. This approach can view students' proficiency. The model closed test used in this approach.
Yes. Miss, could you repeat it, please? Close testing.
أعتقد الأستاذة غلقت المايك، مشغولة.
يس، لا مشغولة، لا بس من يصير صوت مثلا أو ضوضاء أني أطفي المايك حتى ما يكون تشويش عليكم. يس، الكلوز we use it that we use in this approach is a closed test. I'll explain it. Sorry. Yes, and also we have dictation, oral interviews, composition writing, and so on. Weaknesses of this approach, the weaknesses or the weak point here, this approach, or by using this approach or this test, focus on students' need. we can measure the skills based on students' need. Okay, for example, حوراء مثلا حوراء عندها خلل بالرايتنج. اوكي، من انا امتحنها بالانتجريتيف، من اسوي امتحان او تيست by using integrative approach، ما راح اكتشف انه هي عندها خطأ بس بالرايتنج، لا، اسويها الانتجريتيف ابروتش، راح مثلا ما راح يركز بس على الرايتنج، راح يركز يعني راح تعطيني نتيجه للفور سكيلز والثري كومبوننتس. اوكي، فما راح اعرف بالضبط نقاط الضعف وين، نقاط القوه وين. ليش؟ لانه هو راح يعني مثلا هي تحتاج بس بالرايتنج، فما راح استفاد من هذا الابروتش او من هذا التست. اوكي، that's why I say it's not useful. Not really, but it is not based on students' need. Okay. Okay. With the closed test, we have it is like a paragraph contains many sentences and gaps or spaces. Okay, and the instructor asked the students to fill up these gaps. The prior technique that we use it in here with this test, which is a closed test, that we have to remove the word at regular intervals. Okay, مثلا أنا عندي 10 جمل، المثال موجود عندكم on page 19، هذا مثال على closed test. مثلا أنا عندي 10 جمل، ركزوا طلاب، 10 جمل. من أنا أريد أمتحن الطلاب بالكلوز تيست، هذا الكلوز تيست خلينا مثل ما قلنا إنه يحتوي على 10 جمل. أنا من البداية أخلي فد نسق معين، إنه مثلا كل 5 كلمات أحذف السادسة، أو كل 7 كلمات أحذف الثامنة. أوكي، أو كل 5 كلمات أحذف السادسة، يعني بهالترتيب تكون. وهذا الترتيب يعني أعتمد من بداية الجملة الأولى إلى نهاية الباراجراف أو نهاية التست اللي هو الكلوز تيست. ممكن مثلا جملة أو جملتين تحكم إنه مثلا إذا كان النسق من بداية التست إلى نهايته كل 5 كلمات أحذف السادسة، بعض الأحيان تحكم مثلا يكون كل 7 كلمات أحذف الثامنة، أو كل 6 كلمات أحذف السابعة. أوكي، لكن السياق العام، النظرة العامة للتست تكون وحدة. أوكي، يكون ترتيب واحد، يعني إما كل 5 كلمات أحذف السادسة أو كل 6 كلمات أحذف السابعة. That's it. So is it clear for you? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any question up to here? Do you have any question? No question? Okay. So, Ayat Mehdi, yes, read the 4th one. Ayat, do you hear me? Ayat, وين تختفين يا عودة؟
Yes, miss.
Yes, Ayat. So, read the last one, which is communicative approach. بقيت تتبعون ويا الطالب لأنه الموضوع جدا مهم. Yes.
The communicative approach, the approach is sometimes linked to the interrogative approach, as they both emphasize the importance of the meaning of utterance. However, the communicative tests are concerned primarily with assessing real communication. The test should indicate how well students can function in the target language. Consequently, the task should relate to real life situations, with emphasis on authentic material. Language use is often emphasized to the exclusion of language usage use is concerned with how people use language for a multitude of different purposes, while usage concerns the formal patterns of language. Finally, communicative testing has introduced the concept of criterion reference assessment in reference and preference to norm reference assessment. A criterion assessment rates students against certain standards, but norms assessment compares each student with his classmates. Following are the example of a communicative test, where a student has the process information in order to provide the answer. Continue, Miss.
Because it is communicative test or communicative approach, the test should related to real life situation, and also with emphasize on authentic materials. Also here we have strengths and weaknesses. The first strong point, communicative tests are able to measure all integrated skills of students. Phonology, speaking, reading, writing, listening, and the phonology, grammar, and vocabulary. The test using this approach faces students in real life, as I say, so it will be very useful for them. Because a communicative test can measure all language skills, it can help students to getting the score. Consider students who have a poor ability in using spoken language, but may score quite highly on testing of reading. Okay. مثلا الطالب اللي مثلا speaking مالته ضعيف ما يعني إنه هو ضعيف بالرايتنج، أوكي، أو مثلا الطالب اللي ضعيف بالريدنج ما يعني إنه هو ضعيف بالlistening and so on. Weaknesses of this approach. This approach, unlike the structured approach, this approach doesn't emphasize learning structure grammar. It might be difficult to achieve communicative competence without a considerable mastery of the grammar of a language. إذا أنتم ملاحظين مثلا بالعامية، احنا بنتكلم مثلا حارة دا تقول الآيات سدي هاي الباب أو سدي هذا الباب، أوكي، بالمؤنث يعني. آيات ما حد الحارة، لا حارة شلون تقولين هذه؟ المفروض من هذا لأنه الباب مذكر، أوكي. يعني هي خطأ، المفروض تقول مثلا سدي هذا الباب بس من تقول سدي هاي الباب ما حد يقول هذا الشيء خطأ، وين كان احنا مثلا منتبهين انه هو خطأ بس ما نركز عليه بالكوميونيكيشن اللي يصير. ولهذا بالانجليزي نفس الشيء، يعني بالانجليزي مثلا بالريال لايف يكون عندنا missing grammar، اوكي، كلش هذا الشيء كلش طبيعي، يكون عندنا مثلا grammatical mistakes، اوكي، هذا شيء جدا طبيعي. ولهذا احنا ما نقدر نختبر او نقيس او نستخدم ال communication approach or communication test to test the grammar of students، اوكي. يعني ما أقدر أني أحكم على جرامر الطالب من خلال his or her communication. Okay, is it clear for you? That's why it's not like the structured approach. Here we have closed testing. Closed testing is an exercise, test or assessment as to supply words, as I said before, that have been removed from a passage as a test of their ability to comprehend text. هنا ليش قلنا as a test of their ability to comprehend text؟ شنو يعني هاي الجملة؟ Yes, small.
I think this to close testing is to test the comprehension of the students if they understand the passage or not.
Yes, yes, yes.
The
Good.
ability of their understanding. I mean.
Yes, but
Yes.
yes, yes. Okay. Yes, Mohammed. Yes, good.
It means in order to allow students to understand the passage, they remove some words from it, and let other students to fill the blank spaces,
Here
and this will help them to understand this, to comprehend the text or
test.
digest it.
Yes, test of their ability to comprehend with the closed test, but we can say test of their ability to comprehend text with, for example, supplying test. Why?
Sorry, miss, just repeat the question.
The question here as you see, test, I mean the closed one, test of their ability to comprehend text, but we can't say as a test of their ability to comprehend text by using supplying test. With the closed test, we test their ability to comprehend text, but with supplying test, for example, we can't say something like this. Why? The teacher or the instructor doesn't give all the students the words, okay, like between two practices, and you have to choose one of these words or the suitable one. بالclose test الجابز عليه من تعتمد الجاز عليه ما تعتمد الكلمات اللي احنا لازم نمليها الفراغات اللي لازم نمليها. على شنو تعتمد هذه؟ تعتمد على the background of the students, okay, their information, their ability to fill these gaps. هاي وين؟ هاي بالclose test. الclose test ما بيختار بين supplying test or supplying question. supplying question لا، الأستاذ يخلي بين قوسين مثلا 6 كلمات ويقول لك استخدم هاي ال6 كلمات هذه الفراغات، اوكي، يعني سؤال التسقيط بالعربي تسموه سؤال تسقيط. فاحنا بنقول انه بسؤال التسقيط احنا ما راح نختبر their ability to comprehend text, okay، بسؤال التسقيط. بس بسؤال الclose test we say something like this because the students have they don't have the suitable words or the right words, okay. مجرد تيست أو التست يكون عنده فراغات، وهاي الفراغات لازم الطالب يمليها وخلاص، إن هاي يعتمد على مثلا their information or yes. هاي وين؟ هاي بالclose test. بس بالsupplying question مثلا أو بالmultiple choice مثلا أو أي أسئلة ثانية غير close test ما نقدر يعني نقول إنه هو test their ability of comprehend، لأنه أصلاً إحنا نعطي الكلمات والطالب يختار من عندها. Yes. تعرفون شو الفرق بين use و usage. Use concerned with how people use language, while usage concerned the formal patterns of language. And also here we use criterion assessment and norm assessment. Criterion assessment means rates students, while norm assessment means compares students. Rates students against what? Rates students against certain standards, while compares the students with his or with each other, okay, with his or her classmates. So this is the difference between criterion and norm assessment. Criterion rates students and norm assessment compares students. Yes. And that's it. Do you have any question? Yes.
Sorry, Miss. Is all of this chapter is included in the exam?
Yes, all of it, yes.
Okay.
Chapter 1 and chapter 2. You can read the book, which is the most important source for you, and the PowerPoint also.
There is some information you mention it's in the PowerPoint, but it don't exist in our book. Should we read it?
Yes. This is just with chapter 2 to make it more clear for you. Yes, so you have to read both the book and the PowerPoint with this chapter. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any question, Talab?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, Hawra.
The first lecture talked about assessment, introduction. Outside the book, it's important and read this information or special in PDF and
No, you have just
book.
to read. No, you have just to read the PowerPoint and the book. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Rafat.
Yes, Miss. About the material of the exam. Can I, or may I depend on the PowerPoint file only?
I explained that. Yes, who else?
Okay, but I didn't understand that, or I didn't hear.
You have to read the book because it's the main source for you, and the PowerPoint. Yes. Yes, who else? وقلت لكم انه بما انه انتم يعني مرحلة رابعة، فأكيد انه مثلا سؤالين او نقطة نقطتين 3 يعني حسب عدد حسب المادة وحسب عدد الأسئلة ما حتكون نصا للكتاب، يعني مو معقولة كل نصا للكتاب، وإن كان صح وخطأ أو true false تكون هي أسئلة إحنا متطرقين لها بالمحاضرة، أسئلة استنتاجية يعني تعتمد على فهمكم للمادة. أوكي. يس بس أكيد هي من ضمن الشابتر الأول والثاني يعني مو خارج شابترين. يس فإن شاء الله الشابتر الأول والثاني تقرؤون الكتاب، تقرؤون الباوربوينت، الأسئلة النصية تكون من الكتاب والباوربوينت، والأسئلة الاستنتاجية تعتمد على فهم الطالب للمادة. أكو بعد سؤال استفسار؟ No question. Yes, good. So see you next lecture.